Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? If you're watching this video, I'm going to say it's a safe bet that you watch YouTube videos. And YouTube has gone from being this tiny little novel thing to being incredibly relevant. I'm not sure if it's actually eclipsed Netflix. I know it's like neck and neck if it hasn't eclipsed it yet, as the #1 streaming service in the world. And things like Amazon Prime and what have you and stuff that I would have thought would have been really close, not even close, not even close. This video is really about a subject that's become more and more fascinating to me as a content creator and as a content consumer. And forgive me, I'm going to read some notes off of this iPad. I really don't like that format. I really like just being completely extemporaneous. But there's a lot of stuff. And until I find a better way to have a teleprompter or something like that, this is what I'm going to do. One of the things that I've noticed more and more, and you've probably noticed this as well, is like YouTube it's not just about the topic. What makes you click on a video? What makes you keep on watching it? It's not just the topic, it's how the topic is presented. And so let's imagine that there's 10 videos. They all cover the exact same topic, and in fact, they have the exact same information in them. And you start watching them, and one of them is going to draw you right in and be really riveting, and the next one is going to be unbearable, and you're going to turn it off after 3 seconds. Why is that? Clearly, like how the information gets presented can make or break a video, a YouTube channel, whatever it is, or at least as a consumer, you're like, oh, this is cool, and not watching that channel ever again. Why? And what makes it even wilder is if you take 100 people, you have them all watch those same 10 videos, a subject they're all interested in, they're not going to choose the ones that you chose. They're going to be riveted by something that you found appalling, and the thing that you really sucked you in, they're going to turn off after 10 seconds, And it's just the pacing, the style, the energy, all those things. Despite what YouTube gurus might tell you, there's not one formula to retain people, to make an engaging video, to make a video that you want to watch or you'll continue to watch, or that will succeed with everybody, because we're just completely different. Now, I'll give you some personal stuff. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the B-roll. And if you don't know, the A-roll is this. Here I am. I'm this talking head talking about a subject you find engaging and this incredibly charming, handsome fellow. That's the A-roll. The B-roll is all the supplemental imagery that shows up. So if I'm talking about, say, studying in a library at the last minute and being overwhelmed, the scene is going to shift to a person in a library studying, maybe with a look of angst on their face, books everywhere. And if they talk about, if I'm talking about, an idyllic vacation on the beach, all of a sudden it's going to pan to somebody on the beaches in Greece, dressed in flowing white linen and with the wind, and they have a cocktail in their hand, or a Diet Coke in my case, whatever it might be. And a lot of people like it. This is very often seen as a necessary thing for retention, so people keep on watching. For me, I find it incredibly distracting and annoying, and there's some reasons behind that. One of which is when somebody's talking, when I'm hearing something, I'm already creating a picture in my head. I'm already imagining what this might be like, because generally these pictures are to convey some kind of emotional imagery. And I've already had this picture in my head. Maybe my emotional imagery is completely different, or the emotion that the words are invoking are completely different. And there's this cognitive dissonance. And all of a sudden I'm looking at something and say, well, that's not really what I was picturing anyway, and that's kind of corny, or whatever it happens to be. So, cutting to some kind of video that's completely unrelated to the experience I'm having listening to the video, it breaks it for me. And at that point, it's more likely that I'm going to turn the video off and find it unsatisfying. For other people, they need that to keep them watching. The rapid edits, the flashy cuts, the loud sounds, all that stuff that goes bang, 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 the videos I'm talking about, all this fast-paced sensory input, not great for me, There are younger audiences that require that to maintain their attention. It's they've grown up with it. It's second nature. That's the nature of video. The media that we consume has changed dramatically over the years. And there is a growing body of evidence, from neuroscience, which, supports this idea that what we watch, the stuff that we consume, it changes how our brains get wired. This isn't necessarily something that's good or bad. And in fact, it's beyond the scope of this video to make a commentary on that. But what's important is that it's something that's not going away. It's a phenomenon that happens. And as a result, the the flashy cuts and the stuff and fast edits and fast pacing that works for them isn't necessarily going to work for me because I grew up in a different area with different media, with different inputs, and so my brain got wired a little bit different. Little calmer approach, works a lot better. And you can see that in movie pacing. Look at movies from the 50s or 60s or 70s, and we watch some of those now, and they occur in like geological time. And you're waiting for something to happen, because we, even as seasoned adults like me at 57, have become slowly, incrementally over time used to the movies where things happen at a faster pace. And so if you grew up entirely with those fast movies and you go back and look at the slower ones, it can be unbearable. It's not that they're one's different than the other, because I certainly enjoy a lot of those older movies as well. And I'm perfectly happy watching that slow pace because I grew up with that. So that's what I'm kind of used to. I personally like a video that feels authentic, where a person's just talking to me, like they would be talking to a friend, where it's less of a presentation as such, and they're just talking to me, as if I was in the room. I like that kind of stuff, and maybe it's a conversation with a couple people. There's no theatrics, no real forced jokes, just people sharing thoughts and having discussions. What instantly turns me off is by what I could only call the wacky comedy duo. If you think of like radio stations, and you get these people that are talking to each other in these forced tones and exaggerated dialogue, and it's like they're in a sitcom, and people don't talk to each other in real life, and it just feels staged, it feels fake, it feels inauthentic. It's one of those things that I'll watch it for a couple minutes, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. These guys or people are just driving me out of my mind, and I turn it off. Other people, that's what they need to keep them watching, which I find fascinating, that we're that different. There's another thing that drives me crazy, and it's something you're told to do. The YouTube algorithm, or the YouTube, not the algorithm, but YouTube wants you on the platform as long as possible. And it's going to reward people that keep people on the platform as long as possible. So there's this idea of the hook. They give you a hook in the beginning, and they drag it out to keep you watching just as long as they possibly can. And it's something that they could have told you, well, I'm going to tell you this, and then they tell you, and the video could have been 2 minutes long. Thank you very much. But instead, they keep me watching for 10 or 20 or 50, 25 minutes before they finally, and they just kind of piecemeal out some other information that's adjacent to it. And that becomes very transparent once you realize what you're seeing. And maybe the story they're telling and all that kind of stuff is somewhat entertaining. And after a while, no, I just want you to get to the point. And if you're not going to get to the point, then I'm feeling used, and it feels very inauthentic. My trust has been eroded at that point. I need to turn you off, and I'm probably not going to watch your channel again. Other people, it's a formula that works. If it didn't work, people wouldn't do it. So that's kind of interesting to me that these various approaches actually work. So once I realize I'm being strung along, I'm out. Other people, they're in for the ride because it's entertaining. Faceless YouTube channels, they're kind of interesting. They're kind of hit or miss for me. And the really funny thing is, the ones that I find the most entertaining, or the ones that will hold my attention the longest, are the ones with the AI voices. And the AI voices have become incredibly impressive. And I never thought I would have, preferred an AI voice or a robot voice to a human one. But in some cases, I think it's just a little, it seems a little less, where the person's having to do things to keep me engaged, and it's just presenting the information. The cadence of these have gotten really good, and the expressiveness of that have gotten really good. And I don't necessarily have to watch the B-roll anyway, because it's all B-roll, and I can just listen to it like it was a podcast. And, sometimes that's really kind of entertaining. Not all the time, but they're kind of hit or miss for me, because a lot of times I'm just listening to the videos anyway, because I'm driving in my car. And so, in the interest of having a long life, I'm not watching the video. At a stoplight, I might glance at it or something like that. But that's about it. So, a lot of times, some of the video things that I'm mentioning don't matter to me as much. The sound effects certainly do. That can be incredibly distracting. You hear the pop, pop as little things are coming. What the hell is that anyway? Then I have to look for a second. But, a video that relies on a lot of visuals can be kind of annoying when I'm only listening to the audio, or I only have the opportunity to listen to the audio. And some of the B-rolls I absolutely do like are the ones where a picture is worth 1,000 words, where they're talking about something in a chart or a graph or something, that can give me the information, or allow me to look at the information in a different way. As an adjunct to the person talking, really helpful, because we learn in a variety of different ways. So that's really helpful to have that. So I like that. And, there are some annotated videos which are awesome. And sometimes, they need to be annotated because it's annotations over, not the talking head like this where you can edit it, but it's annotations over, like, say, somebody playing a game, like one of our live plays, or a discussion that people are having, or an interview or something where you couldn't do it in the moment, so you have to add this additional information density, as my friend Anthony would say. And I love that stuff, but it can be kind of annoying or disheartening for me because I'm driving the car, man. I can't look. But those can be really cool in the right context. When it's overly annotated and it's really just reinforcing what the person is saying anyway, like it's the same words, that gets a little old after a while. But the thing is, like, YouTube is a part of our everyday life for creators, but for the consumers of the content, it's enormous. And it's not a novelty. People use it for everything, for information, to relax, to be entertained, all this kind of stuff. It's part of how we understand the world in a lot of ways, which is fascinating to me. News has kind of taken a backseat to social media, and it's this new way and this is like beyond social media, really. And as a creator, you have to understand who your audience is. But the thing is, the audience is vast. So it's not just the topics they like, but like, who exactly is your audience? Like, how do they prefer to consume those topics? And it includes like things like generational habits, attention spans, all these kind of things, and even aesthetic sensibilities, which really transcend things like generations and transcend the just, do I like slow movies or fast movies because I'm 107? But just, we have different aesthetics to begin. That's one of the things that makes YouTube interesting, makes this topic interesting, because there's no correct way to make a video. There's no correct way to consume a video. There's just a right way for right people. And different people, different viewers want different things. And it is a problem, but it's not a problem, because that's part of what makes the platform so interesting. It's a problem if you're a creator trying to get as many views as possible, But it's still a relatively young medium, and it's still evolving. I mean, heck, AV or visual is still a young medium. How long have we really had talkies or had movies? How long have we had radio? Not that long in terms of human history. And it's been evolving, and it's evolving now at a breakneck pace. And it's not necessarily evolving in a linear fashion either, in terms of like, what's the best way to present information. Anybody sit through a PowerPoint presentation? You get the idea, different thing, but different people find them fascinating. And I'll sit there riveted the whole time. But it's, trends clash, generations clash, there's different aesthetic sensibilities, and tastes shift all the time. And they don't look like they're going to be landing anywhere anytime soon. But anyhow, I would really love to know from you, like, what kind of styles do you like? Of those 10 videos on that same topic, which presentation styles would rivet you and get you right in, and which ones turn you off? And I'm not just saying this from my own research so I could be the best YouTube creator forever, or ever, and like have an empire. But I find the whole subject incredibly fascinating in terms of like how we respond to what we see and hear. So, whether or not you're a content creator, you're a consumer of this platform, of this medium, and you've discovered, doubtless, the kind of videos that you like and the kind of videos you don't like. And have you thought about why you like them and why you don't like them? All things being equal, if you're getting the same information. So I'd love to hear from you. Don't just watch this. Respond. Let me know what you think. Take it easy.